My mother-in-law threw a baby shower when her son's mistress announced twin boys. She handed me $700K and demanded I disappear within 24 hours. I took every penny and flew to Paris without looking back. But 6 months later, when the twins were born, the same mother-in-law came crawling to my doorstep in Paris. They made me watch. Eleanor Mitchell actually made me stand there while Amber Lawson opened a silver rattle engraved with the Mitchell family crest. While guests cooed over ultrasound photos of twin boys. While my husband Derek kissed his pregnant mistress on the cheek. These boys will carry on the Mitchell legacy, Eleanor announced to the room, champagne glass raised. True heirs. Then she turned to me. Caroline, darling. Come with me. In the study, Eleanor handed me divorce papers and a check for $700,000. Her eyes were ice. You have 24 hours to leave Texas. Leave my son's life. Leave this family. And if I don't? She laughed. Actually laughed. You're 34 and barren. You have nothing. Take the money and be grateful. I signed those papers. Take that check. And I booked a one-way ticket to Paris. What Eleanor didn't know. I wasn't running away. I was just getting started. The flight to Charles de Gaulle Airport gave me 11 hours to think. 11 hours to replay every moment of my 6-year marriage to Derek Mitchell. Every fertility treatment that failed. Every time Eleanor looked at me like I was defective merchandise. Every excuse Derek made for working late, for business trips, for missed dinners. I'd been blind. Willfully, stupidly blind. But somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, my grief transformed into something harder. Something sharper. I wasn't going to crawl into a corner and disappear like Eleanor expected. I was going to find out the truth. And then I was going to make them all pay. My cousin Patricia Reynolds was the first person I called when I landed. Patty was a family attorney in Dallas, smart as a whip and twice as sharp. We'd grown up together, sharing secrets and scraped knees. She was the only person I trusted completely. Carrie, slow down, Patty said through the phone. You're telling me Eleanor just handed you $700,000 and told you to vanish? That's exactly what I'm telling you. And you took it? Every penny. I shifted my suitcase as I walked through the airport terminal. But I'm not done, Patty. Something about this whole thing feels wrong. Derek having an affair is one thing. But Eleanor throwing a baby shower? Announcing these twins as the Mitchell heirs before the divorce is even final? It's too fast. Too orchestrated. Patty was quiet for a moment. What do you need from me? I need you to get Derek's DNA. During the divorce proceedings, whatever legal reason you can find. Hair, saliva, anything. Carrie, what are you thinking? I'm thinking those babies might not be Derek's. The line went silent. Then Patty let out a low whistle. If you're right, that changes everything. I know. Can you do it? Consider it done. I found an apartment in the Marais district of Paris. It was small, just a one-bedroom with creaky floors and a view of a cobblestone street, but it was mine. No Mitchell money had touched it. No Eleanor approval required. For the first time in 6 years I could breathe. But I didn't come to Paris to heal. I came to plan. 3 weeks after I arrived, Patty called with good news. She'd obtained Derek's DNA sample through a court-ordered paternity test, citing my concerns about the rushed divorce timeline. The sample was secured, documented, and waiting. Now what? Patty asked. Now I need someone in Texas who can find out who Amber Lawson really is. That someone turned out to be Marcus Webb. I found him through a recommendation from Patty's law firm. Marcus was a private investigator based in Houston, former military, with a reputation for discretion and thoroughness. His fee was steep, but I had 700,000 reasons not to care about cost. Tell me everything you know about her, Marcus said during our first phone call. Her name is Amber Lawson. She's 28, blonde, works as an event coordinator. She met Derek at a charity gala about 18 months ago. And you want me to find what exactly? I want to know if she's who she says she is. I want to know if those babies are really Derek's. And I want to know if anyone else is involved. Marcus didn't ask why. He didn't judge. He just got to work. The first report came a month later. What Marcus discovered made my blood run cold. Amber Lawson wasn't just some random woman who'd caught my husband's eye. She was a professional. A con artist who'd spent 2 years researching wealthy Texas families before setting her sights on the Mitchells. She'd attended 3 different charity galas specifically to meet Derek. She'd studied his habits, his schedule, his weaknesses. She knew about your fertility struggles before she ever introduced herself to your husband, Marcus explained. She did her homework, Carrie. This was a calculated operation. How did she find out about something that personal? The Mitchell family isn't exactly private about their desire for heirs. Eleanor has mentioned it in multiple society interviews over the years. Amber read every single one. I felt sick. But there was more. She's also been seeing someone else, Marcus continued, for the past 2 years. A man named Victor Chin. The name hit me like a punch to the stomach. Victor Chin, Derek's business partner. The very same. They've been careful but not careful enough. I have photographs, hotel receipts, phone records. They've been together longer than Amber's been with Derek. My mind raced through the implications. Amber had been sleeping with Victor Chin while pursuing Derek. She'd gotten pregnant and claimed the babies were Mitchell heirs. But if Victor was the real father, can you get a paternity test? I asked. I have a contact at Houston Methodist. When those babies are born, I can arrange for a comparison with the DNA sample your cousin secured. It won't be official, but it'll tell us what we need to know. Do it. The months passed slowly in Paris. I threw myself into building a new life, taking a marketing position with a small French cosmetics company. I made friends. I learned to cook French food. I started therapy with a kind woman named Dr. Simone Laurent who helped me process everything I'd been through. It was during one of those sessions that I finally admitted the truth I'd been carrying. I was pregnant, I told Dr. Laurent. When Eleanor handed me that check and told me to disappear. I was 8 weeks along. Dr. Laurent's expression softened. What happened? I miscarried 3 days after I arrived in Paris. The stress, the shock, the flight. My voice broke. I lost my baby because Eleanor Mitchell decided I was worthless. Because she wanted me gone so badly she couldn't wait to find out if I was finally carrying the child we'd tried so hard to have. Dr. Laurent reached across and took my hand. This is not your fault, Caroline. I know. It's Eleanor's fault. And someday she's going to know exactly what she cost me. The twins were born in April. Marcus called me the same day. It's confirmed, he said. The paternity test came back. Those boys are Victor Chen's sons, not Derek's. I sat down heavily on my apartment's small sofa. I'd suspected it for months, but hearing the confirmation was something else entirely. You're certain? 100%. I have the lab results right here. Victor Chen is the biological father of both twins. Does anyone else know? That's where it gets interesting. Marcus paused. I did some more digging, Carrie. Eleanor Mitchell has known about Victor and Amber's relationship for at least 6 months. She found out before the babies were born. She knew, and she still threw that baby shower. Still called them Mitchell heirs. She was desperate. Apparently, Derek had a childhood illness that left him likely sterile. Eleanor has known for years that he probably couldn't father children. When Amber got pregnant, Eleanor saw it as her last chance for grandchildren to carry on the Mitchell name. She didn't care whose DNA they actually carried. She just wanted heirs. The pieces clicked into place. Eleanor hadn't just been cruel to me. She'd been complicit in fraud. She'd knowingly pushed me out to make room for children she knew weren't Mitchell blood. All because she was so obsessed with her family legacy that she'd rather accept another man's sons than admit the truth. What about the Mitchell family trust? I asked. That's the best part. The trust requires biological heirs to maintain control. If those boys aren't Derek's biological children, Eleanor loses everything. The money, the properties, the company shares. It all goes to a distant cousin in Oklahoma. I smiled for the first time in months. Send me everything you have, Marcus. Every photograph, every document, every test result. I want copies of all of it. Already on its way. 6 months after I'd fled Texas with Eleanor's hush money, my Paris doorbell rang at 7 in the morning. I opened it to find my mother-in-law standing there in a rumpled designer suit, mascara smeared beneath her eyes. She looked like she'd aged 10 years. Caroline. Her voice cracked. Please. I need your help. I leaned against my doorframe and studied her. The woman who'd called me barren and worthless. The woman who'd thrown a baby shower for my husband's mistress. The woman who'd handed me $700,000 and demanded I vanish within 24 hours. Would you like to come in, Eleanor? I asked sweetly. I just made coffee. She stumbled inside, looking around my modest apartment with barely concealed disdain. Even now, even desperate, she couldn't help herself. The babies, Eleanor began, wringing her hands. Something's wrong. You mean something's wrong with Victor Chen's sons? Eleanor's face went pale. How do you know that name? I walked to my kitchen counter and picked up a manila folder. Inside were copies of everything Marcus had sent me. Photographs of Amber and Victor together. Hotel receipts dating back 2 years. The paternity test results. Eleanor's own financial records showing she'd paid Amber $50,000 just before the baby shower. I know everything, Eleanor. I know Amber targeted Derek specifically because you'd been complaining about not having grandchildren in society magazines for years. I know she was sleeping with Victor Chin the entire time. I know those twins aren't Mitchell heirs at all. I set the folder on the table between us. And I know you knew. You knew before those babies were born that they weren't Derek's, and you covered it up. Eleanor sank into my kitchen chair like a woman drowning. How? I hired a private investigator the day I landed in Paris. A very thorough man named Marcus Webb. You found everything, Eleanor. Every lie, every payment, every secret meeting. The trust, Eleanor whispered. If anyone finds out those boys aren't biological Mitchells, I lose control of everything. The company, the properties, the accounts. It all goes to Harold Mitchell in Tulsa, and he's hated our branch of the family for 40 years. I'm aware. Eleanor looked up at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Fear. What do you want, Caroline? I'll give you anything. Name your price. I sat down across from her and took a slow sip of my coffee. $2.3 million, transferred to my account within 72 hours. Done. I'm not finished. I set down my cup. I also want a written confession. Everything you knew when you knew it and your role in covering it up. Signed, notarized, and delivered to my cousin Patricia Reynolds for safekeeping. A confession? Caroline, you can't expect me to. I absolutely can. Because here's what's going to happen if you refuse. I opened the folder and spread the documents across the table. These papers go to Harold Mitchell in Oklahoma. The trust lawyers get copies. Derek finds out you knew all along that he was raising another man's children. And every society magazine in Texas gets an anonymous tip about the great Mitchell heir fraud. Eleanor stared at the papers like they were venomous snakes. You wouldn't. Try me. I leaned forward. You took everything from me, Eleanor. You called me barren. You called me worthless. You threw a party celebrating my replacement and made me watch. And do you know what the cruelest part was? I was pregnant when you handed me that check and told me to disappear. The color drained from Eleanor's face. What? 8 weeks pregnant. The child Derek and I had been trying for years to have. And I lost that baby 3 days after I got to Paris because of the stress you put me through. My voice shook, but I didn't let myself cry. Not in front of her. I have medical records from my doctor here, Dr. Simone Laurent. I have documentation proving your actions contributed to my miscarriage. So don't you dare sit in my apartment and act like you're the victim here. Eleanor began to cry. Real tears for the first time I'd ever witnessed. I didn't know, Caroline. I swear I didn't know you were pregnant. Would it have mattered? She couldn't answer. We both knew the truth. 2.3 million, I repeated. And the confession. That's my price for keeping your secrets. Take it or leave it. Eleanor took it. The money arrived in my account 3 days later. Patty called to confirm she'd received the signed confession, locked safely in her law firm's vault. What are you going to do now? Patty asked. Nothing. For now, the confession stays sealed. Eleanor gets to keep her precious trust, and I get to live my life in peace. And Derek. I thought about my ex-husband. The man I'd loved for 6 years. The man who'd betrayed me with a con artist while his mother orchestrated my exile. Derek is about to find out the truth from someone other than me. I made one phone call to Houston. To Victor Chen's wife, a woman named Rebecca Chen who'd had no idea her husband had fathered twins with Amber Lawson. Marcus Webb had provided me with her contact information months ago. I'd been saving it for the right moment. The fallout was spectacular. Rebecca Chen filed for divorce within a week, exposing Victor's affair in the most public way possible. When Amber's role as a professional con artist came to light, Derek finally understood how thoroughly he'd been played. The Houston Society pages had a field day. Marcus sent me clippings every week, each headline more devastating than the last. Mitchell heir scandal rocks Houston elite. Con artist's baby trap exposed. Business partnership dissolves amid paternity fraud. Derek called me exactly once 2 months after everything exploded. I let it go to voicemail. Carrie, it's me. I needed to say I'm sorry. I was an idiot. I believed everything Mom told me about you and I was wrong. He was wrong. I know you probably don't want to hear from me ever again and I understand. But I wanted you to know that I realize now what I lost. What we lost. What she took from both of us. I deleted the message without responding. Amber Lawson fled to California with Victor Chen, chased out of Texas by the scandal. The twins went with them, raised by their actual biological father instead of the Mitchell fortune they'd been conceived to inherit. Eleanor's grand plan to secure fake heirs had collapsed entirely. As for Eleanor herself, she kept control of the Mitchell family trust. But it was a hollow victory. Derek barely spoke to her anymore. The society friends who'd attended that baby shower now whispered behind her back. She'd gotten exactly what she wanted and it had cost her everything that mattered. I stayed in Paris. The little apartment in the Marais became my home, filled with French cookbooks and fresh flowers from the market down the street. I continued my marketing work, eventually getting promoted to director of my department. I made real friends, people who knew nothing about the Mitchell family or Texas society or the woman I used to be. Dr. Simone Laurent and I continued our sessions for another year. She helped me understand that what happened wasn't my fault, and that my worth as a person had never depended on my ability to produce Mitchell heirs. You've built something remarkable here, Dr. Laurent told me during our final session. A life that belongs entirely to you. He was right. For the first time in years I was truly free. The last time I heard from Eleanor Mitchell was exactly 1 year after she'd appeared on my Paris doorstep. A handwritten letter arrived at my apartment, postmarked from Houston. Caroline, I've had a great deal of time to think about what I did to you. The cruelty I showed. The assumptions I made. The grandchildren I threw away in my pursuit of heirs that were never real. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I understand now what I destroyed. Not just your marriage but the child you were carrying. The family you could have had. The life you should have lived. Derek has moved to Austin. He's in therapy trying to understand why he let me control his life for so long. Victor Chen's company went bankrupt after the scandal. Amber is working as a waitress in San Diego, raising twins who will never know the privilege I tried to buy for them. And I am alone. Surrounded by money and properties and a family name that means nothing anymore. You were right to take what you took and build something better. I was wrong about everything. I hope you find happiness, Caroline. Real happiness. The kind I was too blind to see you deserved all along. Eleanor Mitchell. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer with the other documents from that chapter of my life. Not because I forgave her. Not because her words changed anything. But because some wounds heal better when you acknowledge they existed. I walked to my window and looked out at the Paris street below. A mother pushed a stroller past the cafe on the corner. An elderly couple held hands as they walked toward the bakery. Life continued, beautiful and ordinary and completely unaware of Texas scandals and Mitchell family trusts. Eleanor Mitchell had handed me $700,000 and demanded I disappear within 24 hours. She'd thought she was buying my silence, erasing my existence, clearing the path for heirs that were never her blood to begin with. Instead she'd funded my freedom. I took every penny and flew to Paris without looking back. And when that same mother-in-law came crawling to my doorstep 6 months later, I was ready. Not for revenge exactly. For justice. For truth. For the life I was always meant to have. Some people might say I was lucky. That the DNA results could have gone another way. That Amber's con might never have been exposed. But I don't believe in luck. I believe in preparation. I believe in patience. And I believe that people who build their empires on lies always watch them crumble eventually. Eleanor Mitchell taught me that the hard way. And I made sure she never forgot the lesson. Carrie lost her baby, her marriage and her dignity, but she never lost her fight. Did her strength inspire you? Subscribe and like if you believe in karma. Comment below, what hit you hardest? The miscarriage truth or Eleanor's confession letter? Share your feelings, I read every single comment.